digital landscape, you need both the power of custom solutions and the speed to deliver them. Building unique user experiences is critical, but it's often a deep engineering journey requiring specialized skills and time. But what if you could bypass that complexity for common UX needs? What if you could add powerful, high-quality UI functionality to your provider environments instantly? Introducing UX Boosters on Launchpad. We've created a curated catalog of pre-built, vetted, and approved components that you can publish with a single click. Browse the catalog, find what you need, and publish it directly to your provider environment. No setup, no customization, and zero coding required. This means instant enablement of new UX capabilities, more flexibility for providers, and strong governance, since every booster component is pre-approved. It's the perfect complement to DXCB, the existing Constellation custom component building tool. Stop waiting. Start building better experiences faster. Supercharge your UX effortlessly. Explore the UX Boosters catalog today at launchpad.io/UX-boosters.
Awesome. Love it. What a great way to start off our first Launchpad Live for 2026. I'm Tim Miranda and want to welcome everybody here. This webcast is mainly targeted towards existing Launchpad providers, but of course, anyone is welcome to come and listen in and learn more about what's going on with Launchpad. So why don't we get started? All right, so I'm going to introduce the folks that are going to be talking today about some new features and cool experiences with Launchpad. We're going to go over the new capability around parallel work processing. And then we had talked in a previous webinar about the new agentic capabilities in Launchpad, and we're going to talk about how you can use those in landing pages. And then finally, we're also talking about the new support for webhooks so that you can integrate with popular third-party services and use them directly from your Launchpad workflows. We'll take some questions at the end. So please, as the webinar is going, feel free to ask your questions. And then we'll go from there and we'll talk about some upcoming events as well. So like I said, I'm Tim Miranda. I am part of the Launchpad Provider Success team. I'm joined today by a couple of our product managers from Pega Product, Chloe Lowe and also Varun Nair. Very excited to have them here today. So why don't we get rolling? So Chloe, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Let's talk about this parallel work processing. Glad to have you here. What are we talking about here? What is this problem, this feature trying to solve here?
So this feature really provides a simple way for us to execute the same process across multiple different items, whenever the process needs to run independently as well as in parallel. So you can imagine that there are many real-world scenarios where you might need to create the same task for multiple different users or components within a case. So each of these tasks should be able to progress at their own pace. For example, one task can be completed quickly while another might take a little bit longer, and the system needs to be able to track them all independently. So previously modeling this kind of behavior really requires us to use child cases, which is a little bit more complex, making the workflows a little bit harder to understand since they are outside of the main case itself. So we hope that this feature will help to make this requirement simpler for us to actually handle. So
cool.
Yeah.
So I see here you're using like a reimbursement use case here. So for each of the charges, it looks like it's spinning up work for each thing. Can you tell us a little bit more here? Once these things are done and they're done in parallel, maybe worked on by different people and stuff like that, what are the options around moving the case forward from there?
So there's two main options for us to move the case forward at this point of time. So they are called the all or the any options. So basically when the all is selected, the case will wait for all the different sub-processes within the case itself to be fully completed before moving forward. So this is very, very useful in scenarios where, like in approvals, where you need every single one in the panel of approval to provide their approval before we can move on with the case. So the other option is any. So when that is selected, the case will move on as long as one of the sub-processes that has been spun off is completed, and all the remaining other sub-processes that had been initiated will be automatically cancelled. So this is useful in situations such as incident response. So when one team member has already taken action for the particular incident, then it no longer needs to be handled. So all the other sub-processes that has been spun off can be removed.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so this looks super useful. I've done this kind of pattern before with like parent-child cases, but I like this because it really lets you just pull in the right people to kind of do, whether it's approvals or do some work on the case, and they can work independently on it. And it looks like you can also do that with multiple things or objects in the case as well, and kind of have a process run against each one. Do you expect sort of in the future that there might be more options with this feature coming?
Yeah, definitely. So we want to continue to be able to expand on top of this feature. So one enhancement might be the ability to support different kind of sub-processes and to get them to all run at the same time. So currently now we need to spin off the same task for each item in the list. Maybe we can consider abilities to have different processes for different tasks. And another enhancement is to include more flexibility in terms of the join condition. We talk about all and any just now, but we might want to have when conditions for you to have more flexibility in general.
That makes sense. Yeah, being able to maybe define a decision rule that says, you know, when a majority of people approve this or selects a certain condition, then the case can move forward or the case will get rejected. That really lets you model the exact processes that you need. Well, that's really cool. Well, thank you for introducing this. I've actually started to use it with one of my providers already, so
Great to hear.
it's pretty exciting. All right, so why don't you stick with me, Chloe, because we're also going to talk to you about our next topic as well.
Okay.
So tell me about this here. This is agents and landing pages. What's the big thing that's new here in Launchpad?
So the big change in this particular agent as compared to what you have learned before about agents, I'm sure in some of the webinars here, is that previously agents were only available within object views itself. So where their role was limited to helping the users to understand or to act on that specific one case. So the big change now is that the agents can no longer have to operate within a certain case or business object. Instead, they are now exist on the application level and can help the users even when they are not working within a certain case itself. So they now serve as general purpose assistants for the whole application as a whole. So basically this helps to create a lot of new possible interaction patterns where we can imagine helping users initiate common process from, say, the homepage, guiding them to the right workflows and answering questions about what actions they can take.
Right. Cool. Yeah. So I see here, like in this kind of use case, you have an agent right on the homepage on the dashboard when someone logs in, and they're not just talking to them about purchase requests, but the other workflows involved in this kind of application. The user can interact with the different workflows, the data. So, you know, I've used our agent capabilities in my cases. So in the case displays, I built apps where the user can go and interact with the case itself. When I'm evaluating agentic workflows and kind of conversational aspects of my application, what are kind of like the patterns I look for to choose whether I want to have the agent directly in my case versus this kind of thing where I have it in a landing page?
Yeah, so the key difference really comes down to whether the user is trying to work from within a case itself or interacting more broadly with the application as a whole. So object agents are designed to assist users within the context of a specific case. So imagine if they want to ask detailed information about the case itself, want to perform specific actions in that specific case, for example, being able to transfer assignment in the case itself, then I would want to use the object level agent. On the other hand, page agents are more useful to assist users outside of a specific case. So they are ideal for getting users to get started, understanding how a case type as a whole, what the workflows are, being able to navigate the application as a whole. So a simple way to think about it, if the user is already inside case, then use an object agent. If the user is on a landing page then and needs help getting started or initiating work, then use a landing page agent.
Cool. It makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know in a previous webinar, we had introduced the concept of agents, the conversational agents and agentic workflows here. So seeing it extended here where it's something that you can use from a landing page, from a dashboard, gives me a lot more options as a developer. So this is pretty cool to see. What kind of things are coming in the pipeline here around agents, using them in landing pages? What can I be looking forward to?
So this release really builds the foundation for landing page or application-wide agents. And we want to make sure that their capabilities continue to grow with time. So one area might be expanding the type of actions that agent can perform. So today, agents can initiate actions such as creating case types and whatnot from the landing page itself. But we want to make these tools easier to configure and more seamless and more powerful in the future. We will also want to continue making sure we can better integrate agents across the whole applications. So when you switch between landing pages as well as a particular case, how do we make sure that the switch itself is seamless and easy to configure? And finally, one very important area is the ability to chat with data. So in the future, we want to make sure that we are able to do that more efficiently. So you can imagine the landing page agent being able to answer high-level questions, provide summaries or insights into all the different cases you have in the application.
Cool. So when I'm configuring an agent here, say for landing page, what are the kinds of things I should think about in terms of sort of what I tell it, where do I get like the preloaded data versus something that might be a tool to get more knowledge about something versus an action tool? How do I think about the differences between those things?
So there's several sets of different configurations that you can have within an agent rule itself. Number one is the set of data that you want it to have access to. So within an object, you will be able giving them access to a specific case, while within a landing page agent, what you'll be doing is to give them access to a list of different cases or a list of different case types as well. Other than that, we also need to think about how is it that we configure the tools. So the tools really is what are the different actions that this particular agent can perform. So you will be able to set exactly what actions this agent can perform. So one such action could potentially be creating a new case. Another can be updating the case itself. This also makes sure that because you configure it yourself, you make sure that you restrict them from performing actions that you do not want them to perform.
Got it. Yeah, cool. So this looks great. Being able to not just use them case displays, but add them to our landing pages, and you can have certain personas have access to an agent in their landing pages and maybe other personas that don't need it. So you have a lot of flexibility there, and be able to get at all the different case types and data types from that landing page agent. Gives me a lot of options here. So cool. Well, I appreciate your time. Thanks for introducing this for us. I'm sure people are going to start playing around with it and adding this to their existing apps because they have the case types, they have their workflows. They can layer the agents over very easily. So thanks, Chloe. Appreciate it.
Thanks, team.
Cool. All right. So let's go over to webhooks here. Very exciting new feature that's getting introduced. Varun, thanks for joining us. Tell me about webhooks. Why did we introduce this, and what do they do? Varun, you may be muted here. Just double check that.
Tim, am I audible now?
Yep, thanks. We got you.
Thanks, Tim. So the applications that we are building would have to increasingly kind of interact with external applications as well. Let's take a few examples. Like you have a loan customer onboarding for a loan application. At some part of the flow, you would want to delegate the contract signing responsibilities to a provider like DocuSign, right? And DocuSign would keep informing us about the status of the signature verification and all, and they would do that through webhooks, right? Another example would be that you create a cart in Shopify and then you create an order, right? And we have created an application that would take care of fulfilling that order in terms of managing inventory, creating shipping, etc. You would also want to have another part of that application which takes care of managing the customer reward points, etc. Right? So normally, one of the major protocols that are used for this is webhooks, which are essentially HTTP post requests that are given to us, right? So this particular feature allows Launchpad applications to receive external event information through webhook request, which means we actually get a HTTP post along with data associated to that event. And then we can configure on the Launchpad side one or more actions we take to be done, right? So that's fundamentally that what this feature provides. It allows us to react to external events from external applications. We can make our applications more autonomous because we are automatically taking these actions. We can reduce manual interventions by adopting this feature.
Cool. Yeah, I had done some work with DocuSign for a provider a little while back, and yeah, I think this is great because the traditional way to interact with that kind of service would be like polling. So having to periodically reach out to that service and say, "Are you done with the work yet?" And now with this webhook capability, sounds like we can have a lot more efficient interaction here, where the service can reach back to Launchpad and let us know when it's completed something. I see as you know, you were talking about this, that we have two rule types here that have been introduced: the event trigger and the event action. Can you tell me more about the differences between those, how they work together?
Yes, yeah. So there are two aspects of the use cases that I told. One is how do we configure our applications to receive HTTP post requests from outside, and this has more to do with the elements of an HTTP request, like HTTP, the request body, the request headers, the URL, and the data itself comes either as a JSON or form URL encoding. So we in this particular event trigger rule, we configure aspects of the URL, aspects of transforming that plain JSON data into a data type that we can Launchpad can process. So that's the event trigger part. Event action allows you to kind of subscribe to a trigger, which means that for a given trigger, there can be more than one action, and they're like totally decoupled, right? So event trigger happens and it stops there, and then there are multiple event actions. They are totally independent from each other. Like one action can fail, but that doesn't mean that the other would fail, right? So that kind of a decoupled nature, this is a common publisher subscriber patterns that we use in application development, and that's how this is implemented.
Gotcha.
So that's why we have two rule types: one for the configuration part of receiving a trigger, and the other to define different application behaviors when this particular event happens.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's cool. So when it comes to event actions, a simple one I can think of is like creating a case or creating a data record based on the response. Are there other kind of actions currently supported or coming in the pipeline?
So we have started with create cases. So the only action that's supported now is that you can create cases, and using those cases, you can do a lot of other things like updating other objects, etc.
Sure.
within this one. Yeah, but I mean, we would kind of eventually increase this to support more things that we already support through DX APIs.
Okay. No, yeah, I think the ability to create a case makes it easy for me as a developer, because I can have a workflow that sort of its purpose is to respond, like deal with response from the service, maybe update some records, update some other cases, things like that. So yeah, that's pretty straightforward. Cool. So, and then do we expect any other, so there's the event actions, right? And then event triggers. Do we expect any additional kind of trigger support in the future as well?
Yeah. So we have started with webhook requests, webhook events, but a lot of other, I mean, there are other ways also of publishing a change by external applications, like an email, right? So we can create email listeners, file listeners, where we need to be intimated when a file is loaded at a particular location. And events doesn't necessarily have to be external. We can have internal events, like we can publish when case changes, like case status changes, case stage changes, if data is updated. So having a robust system of events can kind of make our application more kind of autonomous and automated, right? In terms, these kind of changes drives the application without manual intervention. That's the vision that we have related to this.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, so this is cool. I like what I'm hearing here. I've integrated with several services like that, like we said, DocuSign, some others. I like that this kind of decouples the actual workflow from responding to the events and actually doing the initial API call and stuff. So it's easier for me to think about as a developer. So this is cool. And having the independently defined event actions so that an event can be triggered and multiple other things can happen also makes it so that I can kind of think kind of workflow centric here instead of really thinking about orchestrating the integration, which is great. So yeah, looking forward to using this one as well. I haven't had a chance to try it, but it's live in the product, so I will take a look very soon. Thanks, Varun. I really appreciate your time, and this is a cool new feature.
Thanks, Tim.
All right. Cool. All right. So I think now we can take any questions that might have been offered by the audience. Katie, I don't know if we have anything on the docket here.
We do. So we had a question. Does the webhook, does it support JSON responses?
Yeah, so the request body can be JSON or form URL encoded. We give a standard response to be provided when we get the request back to the provider with a status code. That cannot be dynamic. For example, DocuSign sends us that customer signed document, right? We can always configure the event trigger to respond with 200 and a message okay, right? But we would be looking at how much more dynamic we can make the response, like adding some more case related data to that particular response that we give.
Okay,
cool.
Chloe, a question for you. On the agents, how does the agent determine which data to use when answering summarization questions?
Yeah, so the landing page agents themselves do not actually automatically inherit context from the UI, which might be something that people expect. Instead, the data that the agent can access to is explicitly configured by the app developers in the agent rule itself. So this means that the agent will only have access to the data that you give it access to. So developers have full control over it, and agents will not be able to access information in your application that you have not given it access to.
Great.
So for
And then just on the parallel work processes, how does this feature differ from using child cases, and when do we use each?
So both of them are similar in the sense that they both create parallel processes or parallel work, but they are really designed for different situations. So this particular feature is suitable for more lightweight parallel processes that operate within the same case, because what it does is to allow you to spin off assignments for each item at least, while encapsulating them within the same case lifecycle still. So child cases, on the other hand, are better suited for more complex workflows where you expect the workflows itself to require its own life cycle. So multiple different stages, multiple different processes, and different assignments. They will also be great when you want to actually spin off like hundreds of different tasks at the same time. So because they will be easier to track from, say, a landing page or an insight page. So as a general guideline, use this feature when you want to parallelize small groups of assignments within the same case, and child cases when you expect a larger unit of work or a huge number of units of work. That's all.
Okay. Varun, another question for you. Can we use events triggers for case urgency? So for example, if you change the urgency based on the on the update case.
Yes, yes. So if your use case is that when we receive a trigger event gets triggered, we want to update the urgency of a case, right? We can do that. The thing is that the action that is supported is creating a case. So we can create kind of a triage case that's that the only thing that it does is call an automation and updates the urgency of another case. That's one way of doing it, because case creation is only action we support. Going forward, if we support, say, case-wide actions, right, that can be leveraged to do it in a more simpler way. But today we have to create a triage case.
Yeah, I think having to kick off a new workflow is useful too, because an event action may actually be like multiple steps or sort of set of processes. So being able to create a case that then goes and updates another case's urgency and maybe create some data records and things like that would be useful anyway. So that makes sense.
Yep.
All right. So another question for you about agents, the agents in landing pages. Is there anything that developers should be doing differently with their application design now that landing pages are available? Sorry,
Yeah.
landing page agents.
Yeah, I think with landing page agents, we really introduce a new way for users to design their applications, and for users to, well, for app developers to design the applications, for users to be able to initiate and interact with workflows in the applications. So traditionally, when a user comes to an application, they need to try to figure out how best to actually use the particular application, what it can do, what are the things that needs to be done. However, with agents, we can use them as basically a tour guide and allow them to allow users to ask them basically, how do I use this application? What can I do here? When I want to do something, what is the best way to do it? So this basically allows landing pages to not just serve as simple navigation hubs, not just as insight providers as well, but intelligent assistants as well.
Great. All right, one more question here. For Arun, sorry, not Arun, for Arun. Will we have out-of-the-box event triggers as part of platform?
So this is a foundational framework as well, on top of which we would be able to add a lot of out-of-the-box event triggers for common services and applications that we would want to integrate, like say WebEx, DocuSign, Twilio, payment gateways, etc. And that would mean that as providers, you would be able to kind of easily use them, reduce your application development time in terms of creating those triggers, testing them, etc. All you would have to do is configure an existing trigger for your specific subscriber use case and then start creating actions. So that's a plan.
Makes sense.
All right. I think that's all we have for now. Tim, you want to wrap up?
Cool. Yeah, let's wrap up here. So I want to remind folks that there's lots of other enhancements and new stuff going on in Launchpad almost on a daily basis at this point. If you go to launchpad.io and the resources and the documentation, you can see the release notes, a lot more details about changes, new capabilities, things like that, along with the help documentation. And we have some upcoming events coming. So we have the next Launchpad Live coming with even more stuff on March 26th. And then we got a couple of new ones coming that we're excited about, a new series here. It's a provider spotlight. So on March 12th, we're going to be talking with Asea about how they built an AI first inspection solution directly in Launchpad. And then March 24th, we're going to be chatting with Avansis about their AI first payment investigations application that they built in Launchpad as well. So very excited to be able to talk with them coming up in March. And of course, follow us on LinkedIn so you'll be able to see as these new events are coming up, and check out our other resources on launchpad.io. Thanks everybody for joining. Appreciate it.